second one with the steamboat, and then the Crested Butte. So,
The time is 5:30 p.m. and the joint special meeting of the Denison City Council of Denison, Texas, and the Board of Directors of the Denison Development Alliance is now in session. Our invocation this evening will be given by Councilmember Greenlee.
Be in the best interest of the city of Denison and pleasing in your sight. Father, we pray for the leaders at all levels. Just lead, guide, and direct them in the way that you would have them to go. These things we ask in Jesus' name.
Amen. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Honor the Texas flag. I pledge allegiance to thee, Texas, one state, under God, one and indivisible. At this point in each council member meeting, time is set aside so that citizens may speak on action items listed on the agenda. In order to speak, a request to speak card must be completed and returned to the city clerk prior to reaching this point in our agenda. We have a number of you that have asked to speak this evening, and so for tonight only, we will reserve public comments until we reach item 3A, purchase agreement for John's Manville property, until after the staff has given their report. Item 3A, receive a report, hold a discussion, and take action on a purchase agreement for John's Manville property located at 5821 North Highway 75/69. Tony Kai, President of DDA.
Thank you, Madam Chair, council, friends, guests. It's a great day to be in Denison. Is this Aggie Day? Because I don't get that message. It's a pleasure to make a presentation, a quick overview of the John Mansville property and project. Back in 1957, this plant was established in the city of Denison. And at that time, or sometime thereafter, it employed 500 people. So it happened in 57, and I was born in 57. So it makes it easy to compute that it's 63 years that it's been out there. And I also calculated 1/3 of my life has basically been devoted to working on this project. Some of you worked out there, and you can tell your own stories, but this plant was built to produce transite pipe. It did close in 1988, and at that time there were approximately 100 jobs. Even prior to closing, the notice was given to the city and the mayor at that time, and immediately efforts were made to either save the plant or get it repurposed to be used as something else. So those efforts started probably in '87. The current owners of this site acquired it in 1982. That's J.M. Eagle. This is an aerial of what the property looks like today. There's been a lot of efforts over the last 25 years. There was cleanup incrementally going on under the direction of the city. to get it to where it is today, which actually it's relatively clean compared to what it was 20 years ago. But this project has been at the top of the list for the council and the Denison Development Alliance. That was the first meeting I had when I was employed, was we've got to get something done on this property. We've talked about this project incrementally every year at our annual retreat, brought everyone up to date on it in regards to our negotiations to get to an end, which is to acquire the property and redevelop it. This, just a couple of pictures of what the inside of the building looks like. There's still some equipment of this nature in there. Most of the buildings have been cleaned out, and this is what they look like. Now, if you will look at the covering of this building and the sidewalls of this building, they are covered in this material. This is a concrete sheet, and it contains, I was told, 14% asbestos fibers as a binder to hold the concrete. These sheets were made in California and shipped in here and installed on those buildings. This is the same material that the transite pipe was made out of. So this is an asbestos-containing material. It's classified as non-friable, meaning it really can't get airborne unless you grind it and do some things to make it, to release the asbestos. The site itself is approximately somewhere around 400 acres. This is the total outline of the property. The site amenities, and the reason why we've pursued this more, there's two reasons. One, it's the front door to Texas, and it's the front door to Denison. But second to that, what are the amenities and why have we had so much interest in it beyond just cleaning it up? It's located on Highway 75. It's high visibility. It's relatively flat land, which is the reason why it was built there in the first place. It has heavy water, sewer, gas, and electric serving the site already. It has a dedicated on and off ramp. And it also, we believe, we still have to do some work on this, that it has the rights to 4,000 acre-feet of raw water. That's 1.3 billion gallons of water annually. This is just a quick shot of the infrastructure that's there. So I'll just give you a summary of the contract conditions that we're going to be talking about, that the council and DDA will be discussing. I've got out here a purchase price of $67,000. I mean, the reality is they're donating this property. We made a deal with them a few years ago, asking them to do some property study on the property, some environmental study on the property, and the cost of that was $67,000. So the agreement was if we did end up with the property that we reimbursed them for that. The reason why we didn't pay for it up front, because we didn't want to lose that 67 if we never got to a deal. So they agreed to do it that way. So really it's a donation, and we're reimbursing them for the $67,000. Total site is somewhere around 480 acres. I've seen different numbers. We'll know once we do our survey. We're going to split the site. This is part of the really detailed negotiations. I'll get into that in just a second, but we're going to split the site into the portion of the property that is in the floodplain and the portion that's not. So the contract gives us 90 days of due diligence. Then we have 60 days to close. Estimated 6 months to demo. Obviously, that could go longer depending on the weather. And then, of course, we will have environmental liability insurance that will protect us as well as JM. That covers anything that's discovered on site other than asbestos, because we already know there's asbestos there. So once we start doing the demolition and do some sampling after that, if there's anything discovered, then we're covered up to $10 million with environmental liability insurance. So what are the next steps? Well, we have to have the site surveyed, designating those two parcels. We've been working with our consultants. We've made contact with Economic Development Administration. There's quite a bit of money that's been dumped into EDA for cleanup of sites of this nature and redevelopment. So we're gonna pursue that as soon as we have ownership. But we've already had 2 meetings with EDA, and the response has been positive. We'll do We'll do a complete analysis of some 4 existing above ground storage tanks. We're going to contract, once we get through that, we'll contract with the environmental firm and a demo company. They'll be partnering to oversee and do the demolition. The estimated cost of that's $2 million. Once that happens, we'll schedule the demolition. In a brief summary, the demolition is, and this is what the mayor and I told the companies that were bidding a year ago, February, you see all of this? All of this has to be gone, and we have raw dirt left. So that's the scope of work. Once that is cleaned off the side, all the buildings and the pad is removed, we'll go back and do another phase 2 survey of that 40 acres to make sure that it's clear and clean. We have to know that before we can transfer it or sell it or whatever we do as far as redevelopment. And then the last thing is do a master plan and then start marketing the property. This is a visual of how it may look when we get finished with the survey. Parcel 1 being the developable property. Obviously, we have a little creek that goes through there, so that's classified as a flood plain. And then parcel 2, the crosshatched area is basically everything that's in the floodplain. And I know there's a lot of concerns and locals that have expressed, hey, there's asbestos buried out there and there's this and that. Well, all that's been researched, and yes, there is, and that asbestos, which is what I showed you a picture of, concrete with asbestos fiber, that has been buried under the rules and regulations of the state at that time. It's still there. There is no danger to the public. There's nothing to be done under any state or federal agency that will force that to be cleaned up. But we're gonna put restrictive covenants on that, just in case, and that will just be grassland from now until something else happens. And this is just a quick example of how the site could be developed. This is just a very kind of generic site plan. Once we do our master plan, it will come back and look something like this. And then that's what we'll use in our marketing program. I think I read an article this morning that kind of gives an indication of where we're going to go with our marketing program. Reshoring after COVID-19 presents economic development opportunities to U.S. policymakers who are considering several measures designed to get essential companies to move their supply chains to the U.S., according to Forbes. Lawmakers are considering subsidies, tax breaks, and a $25 billion reshoring fund to lure American companies away from foreign supply chains. So our initial thoughts on marketing this will be warehouse, distribution, and logistics center. That's all I have, and I have one of the many consultants that we've used, and Tom Chandler is here to talk just briefly about how the public will be safe during this process. And Tom toured the site with me 18 years ago, probably. Got a picture of him. So he's still around, and I'm still around. So I'd like to introduce Tom Chandler.
Mayor, Council. Yeah, I started with Tony probably about 20 years ago. I actually had black hair then, so been a while. There's a process, of course, to cleaning this site. It's going to start with some initial prep work and to secure any kind of dust or emissions coming off that job site. And that will start with some initial poly and cleaning, water that will be contained to protect the public and protect downwind occupants near the site. Through that process, the abatement company will come in, the abatement contractor, and they will start systematically dismantling the buildings. The buildings are pretty much put together with bolts and hardware that will have to be removed before these panels can be removed from the buildings. And the pieces of the building will be they're going to do their best to remove the buildings in whole pieces. And that will protect from visible emissions, is what we call it. During that process, we have our company, we're consultants, we do air monitoring, we regulate the contractors. We will be providing air monitoring services through the process, which will include up and downwind air monitoring that we'll have data on almost daily. That data can be shown, if needed, to the general public if they request it through the right means. And we're going to be demonstrating that we're doing this safely. And so that is kind of the plan. We're going to have to figure out some logistics of the engineering of the protecting all the protection that we need out there on the job site. That's still being discovered. But for everything that we're regulated by the federal government on this project, not so much by the state, although the state will help the federal government regulate us. So, and the TCEQ, which is the Texas State Water Commission, and they also regulate our disposal of materials. We have to satisfy these entities, and we're going to do 100% of that, or 110%. So our goal is to demonstrate to everyone here and the public that it's going to be done correctly. So that's it. Anybody got any questions?
Questions for either Mr. Chandler or Mr. Kai from the council? Questions from the board? All right, thank you very much. At this time, we'll open the floor to citizen comments. A number of you have requested to speak, so if you'll come to the podium when I recognize you. Ronnie Cole, 16 Ambassador Court, Denison, Texas.
Thanks for putting me on the firing line first. All I can say is it's about dang time. We started this process, I was mayor of Denison from 1983 to 1988. And when they announced that Johns Manville was closing, we immediately started conversation and contact with people at JM Management to try to get something done about that building, either purchase that building or purchase the land or get another industry in there. They were not receptive, let's just say that. And obviously for the last 32 years, it's been a priority for every mayor and every council and every DDA board and every DDF board since then. I think Robert said a while ago, Mayor Brady, that there were 7 mayors involved in this. And, I'm not holding anything against Tony for not being able to get anything done. But when we hired him, I think the first thing we told him is you got to get something done about Johns Manville. And how many years ago was that? Job security, yeah. So that was 20 years ago. But I just think, it's very important to this community to have a good entrance, a good front door to your community. And we all knew, in fact, that's been a kind of a trademark in Denison, that anytime an industry went out, we said, we don't want another Johns Manville. We don't want it to look like that. And we've done a pretty good job, I think, of not having that happen since then. But there's been a lot of blood, sweat, and tears. There's been a lot of trips. There's been a lot of letters. There's been a lot of communication. And I'm just happy to see that our front door is going to finally be cleaned up and we can welcome Denison of the people that in the manner that they should be. And I laud you guys and Tony and the board for getting this done. And like I say, it's about dang time.
Thank you. Ben Munson. We have a trail of mayors here.
Thank you, Your Honor and Counsel. I just want to echo Ronnie's comments. Trips to New Jersey are not a real pleasant deal. And through all this patience and prayer and Tony's efforts, we were able to become successful to get to this point. And it's the highest priority we have as far as economic and development in Denison. So I hope that you all can see favorably to move forward. Thank you.
Thank you. Robert Brady, 2101 Renaissance, Denison.
Mayor, council, all I can do is repeat a lot of what they said, so I won't do that. But, you know, the question is, why is this important for the community? You know, so I came up with some things that I think are very important to us. We're in kind of an economic boom here. COVID's kind of slowed us down, but I think it's going to regenerate itself pretty quick. And if you look at what's going on in Grayson County, you know, the Metroplex is on its way quicker than it's ever been. You know, a few years ago, I worked on a project where they were trying to redo 75 so it can meet interstate standards, so it could be an extension of Interstate 45. And to my knowledge, that's still going on. I know everything that they're building today in Grayson County is to interstate standards. That just means more traffic. You know, the Choctaws are spending hundreds of millions of dollars across the river for tourism. That's a big deal. And it's going to go right by that site. Pretty quickly, and hopefully in my lifetime, the toll road's going to dump into 75 somewhere between 120 and the river. That's right in the path of this piece of property. So Tony talking about marketing, I don't think that's going to be an issue for us. I think, matter of fact, we may get our choice of what we want there. So, you know, I'm kind of envious of you guys and gals because you're going to get to approve this tonight, and I'm sure hope you will. I can see no reason why we wouldn't. You know, Tony, 20 years ago, there were 5 people who applied for that job, and I got to be one of those people who got the number on by choice. He was my number 5 pick, and now I'm a number 1. So you can take what I've said. So I have made mistakes in the past, but thanks to his efforts and his kind of been the point of the spear, looks like we're finally going to get this done. Thank you.
Thank you. Mr. Mark Batts, 1307 Lafayette, Denison.
Madam Mayor, council members, DDA, I'm here representing the last man that was at that facility and who served 57 years in his positions over that time. The death knell of this facility really happened 2 years ago. From 1988 until then, there was actually a small operation that existed within the machine shop of that facility, and I believe that remained a stumbling block from activities happening. Once those men passed away, that operation had completely ceased. I think it is a wonderful thing that this is happening, and it has needed to happen for quite some time. And I have interestingly enough been out at that facility wandering around for 35 years. I feel like I know it like the back of my hand. And it's interesting to see how time has finally reached a point where a change needs to take place. I'm really here today, though, to ask a specific question to the DDA. My career deals a lot in historic renovations, most notably of auditoriums. And with those renovations always comes asbestos. It's always part of the thing. What my job has nothing to do with asbestos. It comes in after all that's been cleaned up and you're ready to make all the bells and whistles work in your old facility. What I am concerned about is the dollar value that is expected that this cleanup can take place within. And I am asking the question, is there a contingency, an allowance somewhere for when that number does not cover the costs? And I did say when and not if, because I feel that confident it will not. But I think it's time to happen. Just my concerns. Thank you.
Mr. Guy, you want to answer that question? Thank you, Mr. Batts.
And his dad, which I know all of you know, has been working with me and others for all of those years to get to this end. Without him and his knowledge of what was on that site, other than asbestos, the fact that he was running that plant and there was no other chemicals that were dumped, or he was the key to get us to where we are today. In regard to the cleanup, we, and the mayor was with me, and Tom, and 2 other contractors, environmental companies. A year ago, February, we toured the site with those 3 companies, and we requested bids, because that was the key. If we can't afford to clean it up, then it's going to be there forever. And so the low bid was Tom and Lloyd Neighbors, and that bid is about $1.8 million. So we're budgeting $2 million for something that may come up that we're not aware of, but they will be contractually held to that number. And there's always things that can happen we've got, DDA has the money to cover it in our budget. We've kind of been holding that for a few years, getting closer and closer to this to make sure we had the money if we sign the contract to get it done. But we have 90 days, and we have to perfect that agreement with the contractor, make sure it's papered as hard as it can be papered, and then we'll go from there. But very good point. Good question.
Thank you. Chairman Looney, the floor is yours for discussion and action.
Thank you, Mayor Gott. On behalf of DDA and 1/3 of Tony's life and multiple mayors, I want to say thank you to both William and Loretta for all of their staff help. I want to thank my board for helping us get here as well, and the numerous boards of both DDA and DDF. We've come a long way. We've learned a lot about it, and we're ready to move forward. And with the blessing of this current board, I would like to request a motion to approve this purchase and sale contract.
Mr. Chairman, I'd like to make a motion to accept the provided real estate contract to purchase the former Johns Manville property located in Denison, Texas. And I also move to submit the DDA-approved real estate contract to the City Council for their authorization in permitting the Denison Development Alliance to purchase the Johns Manville property.
I'll second it.
Mayor Gott?
No, you can call for your vote.
Oh, all in favor?
Aye.
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 Great job, gentlemen. Item 3B, receive a report, hold a discussion, and take action on a resolution supporting the purchase of the Johns Manville property located at 5821 North Highway 75/69. City Manager Judd Rex.
Thank you, Mayor, Council members, DDA board members. With the action taken by the DDA board tonight, staff has prepared a resolution approving the execution and delivery of an agreement for purchase of the real property known as the former Johns Manville property. So that resolution is up for your consideration tonight, City Council. We're excited about this, and in true Team Denison fashion, we see the DDA board and the city working hand in hand to help move a priority forward, and just very excited about that, and thank Tony and his staff and the board for all their help and support on the project.
Questions for Mr. Rex? Discussion from the council. A motion.
Mayor, I move to approve a resolution supporting the purchase of the Johns Manville property located at 5821 Highway 7569.
Second.
There was a motion by Councilmember Hander and a second by Mayor Pro Tem Doty. All those in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, same sign. That motion carries. Before we adjourn our meeting, I'd just like to say a few things. You've already heard, this has been a really long journey. In fact, this journey has been 32 years with the closing of the plant in 1988. As I look across this room, I see faces that have played a very important role in making this happen. There's former Mayor Ronnie Cole, former Mayor Ben Munson, former Mayor Robert Grady, former Mayor Jared Johnson, our current City Manager Judd Rex, and many, many more that have consistent in trying to get this project over the finish line. But I would be remiss if I didn't recognize the efforts of our DDA president, Tony Kai. When Tony arrived in Denison, you've already heard that the first task he was given was to secure the JM manufacturing site. And Ronnie, that was really no easy task that you gave him that day. Tony, we watched you take 3 steps forward and then take 4 steps back. We've seen times when it went completely silent, that there was no response whatsoever on the other end. But you've never taken it off your radar. You've never quit keeping on, and it's because of your perseverance that we're here tonight. And there is no question about that. I don't care if Ronnie did say it's about dang time. Tony, you've taught us well, or maybe I should say you've taught me well. We know that it isn't a done deal until it's a done deal. And we know that the action that we've taken tonight has not gotten us over the finish line, but it's gotten us so close that finally, after 32 years, we can see that finish line. So Tony, thank you. Thank you for never giving up. Thank you for fighting to make our community better. And this really is a great day for Denison, Texas. You're welcome, Mr. Cobb.
Well, I would also like to take a moment to thank Tony and your staff and the DDA board for all the hard work you put into it. Because I've been around this whole thing and seen it when it was in the glory days, and I've seen it where it is today. So I just want to say thank you guys for doing what you've been doing for so long. Thank you.
Well, there being no further business to come before either body, the time is 6:02, and we are adjourned.